And now it's time for your gay history lesson. That's right. Today it is time for your gay history. And today's gay history lesson comes from history.com. Some of the golden age of Hollywood's brightest stars were suspected to have been in lavender marriages for the sake of their careers. That's right. We're turning back the clock just a few decades back when Hollywood studios married off gay stars to keep their sexuality a secret. These marriages were often referred to as lavender marriages. So what is a lavender marriage? Well, I hadn't heard of this term, or at least that I could recall, so I had to look it up. A lavender marriage is a male-female mixed marriage undertaken as a marriage of convenience to conceal the socially stigmatized sexual orientation of one or both partners. The term dates back to the early 20th century. One of the earliest uses of the phrase appeared in the British press in 1895, at a time when the color was associated with homosexuality. So lavender and homosexuality back then, I guess that was a thing. Anyway, during the golden age of Hollywood in the 1920s, actors and actresses shot to fame, but only if they tailored their image to the demands of the big studios. For LGBT actors, that often meant marrying a person of the opposite sex. The early 20th century presented a unique time for LGBT people in the country. Throughout the roaring 20s, men dressed as women, and gender nonconformity and queerness weren't as taboo in big cities as they would be years later. Queerness could be appreciated on stage, but in the everyday lives of major movie stars, it was often hidden in these sham unions known as lavender marriages. These marriages were arranged by Hollywood studios between one or more gay, lesbian, or bisexual people in order to hide their sexual orientation from the public. Lavender marriages were a solve in part for quote unquote moral clauses issued by big studios at the time. The clauses, first introduced by a Universal Film Company, permitted the company to discontinue actors' salaries if they forfeit the respect of the public. That's right. They said, quote, if they forfeit the respect of the public. The kind of behavior deemed unacceptable widely ranged between criminal activity to association with any conduct that was considered indecent or startling to the community. Some of these clauses still exist to this day. One of the earliest speculated lavender marriages was in the 1919 union of silent film actor and early sex symbol Rudolph Valentino and his actress Jean Acker, who was rumored to have been lesbian. On the couple's wedding night, Acker apparently quickly regretted the marriage and locked her new husband out of the hotel room, according to the New York Times. Soon after, they got divorced. And then Valentino also married costume designer Natasha Rambova in 1923 at a time when his career was starting to take off and the roles he played were seen as less typically masculine, a little less than masculine. And his marriage to Rambova ended in 1925, only 2 years later, which left some speculating that the marriages were cover-ups to keep the sex symbol's reputation intact. All right, now identifying how many Hollywood couples actually tied the knot to cloak their sexuality is, of course, problematic since it's primarily based on speculation, but whatever. One commonly cited source for speculation is the memoir of Scotty Barnes, which is called Full Service, My Adventures in Hollywood and the Secret Sex Lives of the Stars. Now, Bowers accounts details of sexual encounters, gay and straight, that he claims both arranged and took part in beginning in 1946. Some have questioned whether Bowers' accounts in the autobiography and the corresponding 2017 documentary Scotty and the Secret History of Hollywood are even accurate, but his included details and photographs back up his claims. Among the most speculated lavender marriages was between famed actor Rock Hudson and his secretary Phyllis Gates. They married in 1955 and separated only 2 years later after rumors of his homosexuality and infidelity began to pile up. Waves and rumors and speculation around Hudson's affairs became so widespread that they even helped foster the growth of celebrity tabloid journalism. So TMZ would not be here today without Rock Hudson being a shady queen. All right. The publication Confidential became popular in the 1950s by featuring salacious celebrity news. The tabloid outed popular figures like Hudson before outing was even a thing. Despite the coverage, Hudson never addressed his sexual orientation publicly before he died of AIDS in 1985. Some actors still chose to live openly despite the risk. In the 1930s, actor William Haynes refused to hide his relationship with his partner. Haynes was contracted with MGM in the 1920s and the 1930s while also living with a former sailor named Jimmy Shields. Even with a common yet unspoken knowledge that these two men were romantically involved, Haynes' popularity didn't take a hit until years later. And then that's when he was given an ultimatum: either get married to a woman or he would be dropped by MGM. So Haynes left the silver screen behind to create a successful interior design business with his partner. He's now often considered one of Hollywood's first openly gay stars. Now, lavender marriages became less prevalent in the 1960s and later in the 1970s as the gay rights movement gained momentum following the Stonewall riots of 1969. But still today, although there are more out and proud actors and entertainers, more now than ever, Hollywood still has some homophobic practices. Up-and-coming actors don't always feel like they can be 100% their true selves, even in this day and age, but it is getting better. And the minds and studios in Hollywood are changing and progressing too. If you want to learn more about the secret gay Hollywood marriages, you can log on to our website, outoftheclosetpodcast.com, for more information, photos, and links to the history.com article. And that's it for your gay history lesson this week. Tune in next week with an all-new lesson where we'll discuss the Village People. Yes, how a construction worker, a Native American, a cop, a cowboy, a leatherman, a naval officer became gay and American icons, creating some of the most memorable disco beats and world-famous songs that we still love dancing to today. So you won't want to miss out on next week's gay history lesson. Listen, and you might learn a thing, and the best student in the class gets the title Macho Macho Man and a one-day pass to your local YMCA. Yeah!